What is good? We're back. The season is coming to an end, but we're going to have a little fun today. We got my guy Austin up there in Dirty Jers. What's up, Austin?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. We're gonna have a little fun today. We're gonna take it back to the 2021 rookie class, the 2022 rookie class, and the 2023 rookie class, and just kind of go through those drafts and rankings one by one, and kind of talks about hits and misses, lessons learned, mistakes to avoid, bang, 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 keyword, having a lot of fun. All right, so I'm excited about this. I think this is going to be fun. We'll take a trip down memory lane and kind of discuss who we were into, who we were out on, and just revisit these drafts. I think it's good to always, every once in a while go back in history and look at stuff and how you were feeling about things and if you've changed process or anything. Let's get into it. 2021, the Najee Harris, Jamar Chase, that was kind of probably the big debate in that class. And then Kyle Pitts was so exciting, a unicorn. Jamar Chase, clearly the pick here, right? I mean,
oh, of course. I mean, if we're doing a dynasty startup today, Casey, like one quarterback, how is Jamar not the 101, right?
Right.
I mean, the top of this class is just awesome, right? I mean, Jalen Waddle, like 3 straight years of 70 plus receptions, 1,000 yards. I know this year's been tough. Javonte Williams he was loved at the time. He definitely up and down career. But I mean, I'm talking much more of like Devonta Smith, Chase, even Najee, 3 straight years of 1,000 plus rushing yards, going to hit that mark this year. Even Bateman, we're finally starting to see him pick it up, which is nice. I know he's been frustrating really and disappointing, at least relative to his ADP, obviously being a first round pick. But ETN, man, he's the only running back in the NFL to play every single game over the past 2 years and have 1,400 plus scrimmage yards over the past 2 years. Again, very frustrating year for him this year. I get it, but there's been some real value here. And, we didn't even get into the later picks yet. This 21 class, man, a lot of fun. I know the quarterbacks did not pan out how we'd hoped, but the skill players, a lot of hits here.
Yeah, the quarterback class kind of in total, if we were looking at us from a super flex lens, T-Law, Fields, Lance, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Kellen Mond, Davis Mills, Kyle Trask. Fields obviously was great for fantasy, but we're TBD there. Lance, we've almost never even seen. That looks like a complete and colossal disaster. Mac Jones is a backup. Zach Wilson, maybe never to be heard from again. And T-Law, not the generational player that you thought he was, but I think still a good player, right? I mean, that's when the expectations are that high, it's a tough life. You're almost better off being Josh Allen or somebody who wasn't as highly touted with less pressure, and you come in and you kind of surprise people rather than that being at the pinnacle to start is a tough place to be. No excuses for T-Law. He's definitely been up and down, but I think he's a solid quarterback at this point. So, but really the only one that's still has any semblance of a real starting role. Lackluster quarterback class, I'd say, which I don't think I was terribly high on really anybody but T-Law, Fields, and Lance. Obviously, Lance, where did you stand on Lance in that draft?
There was obviously the rushing upside that was always wildly appealing about Trey Lance. It was, the fact that he had just been, I hate to use the word raw, right? I felt like he definitely fit that mold, like a raw prospect. And, we knew that the range of outcomes for Trey Lance was all over the place. And that's exciting, but it's scary at the same time. And this was kind of the absolute, or not kind of, this was the absolute worst outcome, of course. So it's tough to recover from this, man. When you're spending early first round pick, like 102, 103, 104, if this was super flex platform, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you just got burned, man, right? This is it's not easy to recover from stuff like that. So you really got to do your due diligence, research, and hit on these picks. Casey, I want to kind of move to some of the second round picks. Do you want to continue? Anybody else you want to touch on in the first round?
I want to go back to Lance just for a second because I was certainly wrong on him. The rushing ability, of course, we liked, and that'll make him tantalizing. But it was, to me, it was, he went to the Niners, and that was the most intriguing. I would have put anybody a little higher because of that. Some circumstances unfold, and maybe Trey Lance is being developed by the Niners still and playing, but gets hurt, can't stay healthy, and then comes into a Garoppolo situation and then goes to, Purdy that has been excellent for them and really has never relinquished the job, and they made the right decision. Definitely a disaster and a huge miss on our part, my part. I know a lot of people like Lance, but in fairness, you've also never really even seen Lance play very much starting football. So, he could be one of those guys that in a couple of years you see him come back around for a team and be the backup and get a shot, and you go, oh shit, look at Trey Lance. So, and I think Mac Jones is a good backup if your team's hurt or your quarterback gets hurt, and maybe he'll get a shot. I think, but he seems like he's going to be in that backup role. Fields, still a player that I want to take and stash because his value is getting cheaper and cheaper. Just real quick to recap through that first 12, Trey Sermon, that was a smash. I was absolutely out on him. No chance I was paying that price. That was ridiculous. There's 0% chance that guy should have been in the first round. Rondale Moore, I probably had down just a little bit more, maybe, but not very many spots. I definitely like Rondale Moore a lot. That's a miss. Unfortunately, we would have seen him in this Ray McLeod role potentially in Atlanta this year, and he got hurt, I believe, in training camp, so we didn't even get to see that. That would have been kind of fun to see. And then, like you said, I like Bateman a good bit, probably right around this range, that 9-10. But we're starting to see that come to fruition a little bit. He looks really good. He kept Deontay Johnson off the field, got him good and mad. Yeah. So
it's true. It's true.
What are you? You're just early, not wrong. Is that what it is? I don't know.
Never wrong, just early. Yeah.
Javonte injury TBD, but probably a bust at the price. Real quick, somebody like Najee Harris, right? Whether you had him first, second, or third, and you took him up there, Kyle Pitts has been outside the rookie year disappointing since that MCL injury. Hasn't really looked as quite as explosive as we've seen him. Does he love football is really my question that we got to see if we can get answered, and can he get right? And maybe this change to Penix will give a little, Pitts some love. So TBD, he's still super duper young. That's the fallback on Pitts and was so great. But somebody like Najee, who has a really good rookie year, and I mean, Pitts, I guess, is the same way, but like in the public space, somebody's like that, Najee's a bust, right? And so how do you view that? Because I don't see that as a bust. I don't know that you necessarily got back exactly what you paid for. Year one, he was good. I believe year two, he was even pretty good, and then had an okay year, that previous year. And then this year, like, it hasn't been awesome, but he's an RB2, right? I think that's basically what he is at this point. But I mean, in PPR, he had 8.9, 8.4, 13, 10, 9, 20, 16, 16, 11, 13, 7, 24, 11, and 3.1. So not super duper sexy, but where you were drafting him this year, probably not the worst thing ever if you need a starter. Is that a bust? How do you categorize that as a pick?
So very, very interesting. You can't call Najee a bust, right? Like, he was the epitome of a league winner year one, right? Finishing as the RB3 overall, over 300 fantasy points. He ended up putting up, oh my God, it was the final game. He won so many teams their championship because he popped off. I remember the final week of the year. I vividly remember it was, I'm pulling it up right now, Casey. It was 29.6 points against Cleveland, right? You love to see it. And then the following year in 2022 championship puts up north of 20 points against Baltimore, right? So showing up when it matters most. He had 10 plus touchdowns the first two seasons of his career. Last year, 8. Like, these are good numbers, man. I know when you're drafting him at the 101, you want even better production. You want his rookie campaign type of production, that consistency. And sure, it hasn't been there. Sure, he's been inefficient, right? But he's, again, still rushing for north of 1,000 yards, right? He's still finishing at worst as the RB23. He's been that or better in all 4 seasons, right? So again, at the 101, we want better, but no, I don't feel comfortable calling him a bust by any means, man. I mean, I would be okay with putting that label on a player like Javonte Williams. And the only thing I don't think I've mentioned thus far regarding Najee is his durability, right? Hasn't missed a single game in his career. Fact check me if I'm wrong. No, I'm not. I just pulled it up on Sleeper. 17 games every single season. This year he's played all 14. So I mean, he's been an Iron Man.
Hey guys, a quick reminder to head over to patreon.com/the FF Dynasty to sign up for a free membership to get access to the free Discord channel, Or hit your boys with the $5 holler and get access to extra shows, mock drafts, roster reviews, ADP, and player pages. All for your pleasure.
Let's slide down to the next 12 that we had mentioned. I'll revisit those. Elijah Moore, Michael Carter, Fields, Terrace Marshall, Amon-Ra, Tony, D. Eskridge, Kenneth Gainwell, Zach Wilson, Diami Brown, Pat Freiermuth, and Amari Rodgers. So bust and Amari Rodgers, which fine, wasn't interested. If he was super late, I might pick him up or free. D. Eskridge bust. Kind of liked him, but I wasn't drafting him there. If he hung around to the 4th round, I might pick him up. Terrace Marshall for sure. By the time you were drafting late, he was a 1st round pick, late 1st round, but still, I loved Terrace Marshall. I thought he could play inside and out, big, kind of give you that big slot energy. Just never was any good. That was definitely a miss there, which, maybe gave me a little PTSD on some bigger guys that could move around a little bit. Amon-Ra, obviously a smash. We were on Amon-Ra pretty good. Kadarius Toney, liked him a lot. Kind of knew what it was drafting him. I would draft a guy with that kind of upside all day in the mid-second or late second where he was kind of falling. Gainwell has been fine, I guess, but not this high. Zach Wilson bust. Freiermuth decent, so not really a bust. What's your thoughts here through the other kind of back half of this 24?
Do you remember the Elijah Moore hype, right? He was finishing his rookie season with the Jets.
With the Jets? Oh,
he got really hot the final 5 weeks prior to his injury, which ended his rookie season. Everybody was talking, and this is back in the Adam Gase days, man. Everybody is yapping about Trevor Lawrence going there, and then Gase ends up stringing 2 dubs for them. I think their final 3 games, they beat like the Rams, who I believe went to the Super Bowl that year. And it's just so wild to look back on all of this, man. Again, like, people are going nuts over Elijah Moore, thinking he was going to get paired with T-Law for the foreseeable future. Obviously, none of that happens. Elijah Moore now with Cleveland is actually looking pretty good lately, or at least a lot better than he's been in the past.
For sure.
But here's what I want to talk about, man. Let's talk about the good stuff with I remember the Amon-Ra St. Brown versus Kadarius Toney, Terrace Marshall type of conversations that were going on that offseason, because those 3 players were really in the same tier, right? In terms of at least where consensus viewed them. I'm not saying they were equivalent in as far as they were as prospects, but I vividly remember, Kadarius Toney goes, what was it, 25th overall to the New York Giants? I think it was 25th.
I don't remember, but yeah, pretty high.
Amon-Ra, Terrace Marshall, God, was he a 2nd rounder as well? I value draft capital a little more than I probably should, but seeing a player go late 1st who I didn't like in Toney versus a player that I actually did like in Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm like, why are all 32 GMs passing on this player repeatedly? They must know something that I don't. And a lot of times that is the case, but there are definitely some times where, they all miss, right? Obviously, I have plenty of misses myself. But it's so funny to look. It's truly crazy to look back on this, man, because obviously Terrace Marshall done nothing. Kadarius Toney done virtually nothing. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown is, a fringe top 3 dynasty startup wide receiver, right? He's just as good as it gets, man. And God, I hope you ended up on the right side of history there if you were drafting in the mid second round of your 2021 rookie drafts.
Yeah, no, I had a good bit of seconds, and I feel like in that I probably got some Toney, I got some St. Brown for sure, and I think I probably got some Ramondre and Chuba in there as well. So we'll keep it moving. Unless you got any more guys you want to hit on in there?
No. Let's move on.
Yeah. So coming through these last 25 to 48, you got guys like Tylan Wallace, Kylan Hill, Mac Jones, Nico Collins, Chuba, Ramondre, Elijah Mitchell, Josh Palmer, Daz Newsome, Des Fitzpatrick, Brevin Jordan, Cade Johnson, Jalen Darden, Cornell Powell, Tutu Atwell, Hawkins, Schwartz, Seth Williams, Jamar Jefferson, Roundtree, Sage Surratt, Khalil Herbert. There's Trask, Felton, Puka Williams, Kellen Mond, Hunter Long. Liked Hunter Long. He was a fun late round pick. Hasn't really turned into anything. Had some injuries. Tommy Tremble, didn't mind him as a late round pick. Lots of interesting players here that didn't really turn into anything. I want to go back up to kind of that 25 area where they had Tylan Wallace was a guy that I definitely liked. I liked him a good bit, and then draft season came through, and then he fell down, and I was, hey, I'll take him late third, early fourth if he's there, and that was certainly a bad call. Kylan Hill was another guy I really liked as kind of that fourth round stab at running back. Loved him. Just I think he got kicked off the Giants at the Packers at some point. Got injured rookie season, I think, and then eventually got kicked off the Packers for being a dingus, I think. Nico, obviously a fave of the podcast. Chuba, fave of the podcast. Like Ramondre, liked Elijah Moore. So a good chunk there. Those are some good seconds in that draft class, as far as I remember. Elijah Moore was a favorite stab of ours, and Josh Palmer as well. So where did you fall? Any hits or misses through the back end of the 2021 draft here?
Yeah, I vividly remember I was very vocal. I preferred Ramondre over Elijah Mitchell. Happy to see that looks good. I liked Chuba, man, and I just thought I was taking an L for years, and now I'm like, okay, like again, never wrong, just early, right?
That's right.
Nico, I'll take the L on, man. I didn't like necessarily dislike Nico. I was just not bullish on him. I never really became enamored with him as a prospect, and I look very silly because Nico is an absolute rock star.
There wasn't a whole lot going on at Michigan at the time of Nico's,
right.
In the passing game.
Right. It's funny, man, because I just, you look back and I'm like, where did I go wrong in my process? What could I have done in my evaluations? How could I tweak things in the future? And, you just take a lot of things over each year, and hopefully it helps you long term. But yeah, man, Nico, again, I'll take the L on that. So, yeah. But that's about it, man. There's no other players in this list that I was really infatuated with. It was really, I liked Ramondre a lot, and I liked Chuba.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like with the lesson learned, mistakes made, yada yada yada. Like Nico, Chuba, Stevenson, this chunk right here, like, you just kind of talked about them, and really what you need to kind of keep in mind when you're doing this is like, just because those guys didn't hit the first year. What you need to do, it's just like when you had a guy early in your process and he drops to the fourth round or whatever, and he gets drafted there, you thought he might go second round as far as the NFL draft. So you don't get off that guy. You just adjust the rankings. And when you got to decide if, hey, it still lives in a value range that you want to be in. And a lot of the times it will be for me. And that's what happens with a lot of guys like Ramondre Stevenson or Chuba Hubbard or Nico, and and then they get in the league and they might have a little bit of ups and downs here and there, but people are mostly getting off them. And I'll stay on those guys for 2 or 3 years because the value keeps dropping out on them. And I'll just keep, hey, after the first year, they're a 7th round pick, and then they're a 10th round pick. And then, the last time you could get Nico at a discount, people were either out, or you could get him in like the 14th, 15th round. And I just, kept pulling the trigger on Nico and Chubas, and Ramondre got a little love throughout there, so he never got cheap, but like, I'll continue to stab on Ramondre. So that's just kind of always something to keep in mind as we're going forward. And we just got done with the 2024 class for the most part. Like, they got a full season in, and for one reason or another, there's some guys who didn't do as well as others, and it's just adjust the value a little bit and keep it. You don't have to get off of somebody after all the work and due diligence you did on them. It's okay if you were wrong, and if you get new information or you see him playing, or and it's like, that really didn't work out, then you can get off of them. But if there hasn't been a real reason to get off of them, then I typically like to stay and bob and weave with the value a little bit there. So you want to move to 2022, or what do you got?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. 2022, another really, really strong, at least top end of the class here. We got Breece Hall, we got Drake London, we got Kenny Walker, we got Jameson Williams, Garrett Wilson. Again, these are Fantasy Pros, just staff rankings that we're just reading down. Garrett Wilson at 5, Chris Olave at 6, Treylon Burks at 7, Sky Moore at 8, Jahan Dotson at 9, James Cook at 10, Christian Watson at 11, George Pickens at 12, Dameon Pierce at 13, Rachaad White at 14, Wan'Dale Robinson at 15, Alec Pierce at 16, Brian Robinson Jr. at 17, David Bell at 18, Jalen Tolbert at 19, Trey McBride, baby, at 20, Isaiah Spiller at 21, Zamir White at 22, Tyler Algier at 23, and Kenny Pickett rounding out the top 24 in that draft class. So to summarize the quarterbacks real quick, it's Pickett, Ritter, Willis, Matt Corral, and Howell. So a pretty yuck class quarterback wise there. If we're talking super flex, nobody really good. I did like Pickett and the range that you could get him in, like end of that first round. I was down to take a stab on him. Was Levis in that class too, or was that the next one?
Malik Willis was in this class. Levis was the next class.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I did like some Kenny Pickett.
Wait, real quick, just before we dive into these players. Do you remember the hype around Malik Willis?
Oh, sure.
There were reports that he could go top 5, top 3, top 10. Like it kind of felt consensus, or I don't even know, man. The sentiment, everybody made me feel like Malik Willis was gonna go top 10, even though in my mind I thought that was absolutely crazy. And it was the same exact feeling with Will Levis. I thought there is no way he deserves to be top 5 or top 10, because I remember everybody and their mother had Will Levis projected to go to the Colts at 4. Obviously falls to 33, and then we see Malik Willis fall to it was round 3, I believe. So Casey, let me ask you this question to start.
We'll say Willis didn't look god awful in a little bit of stuff with the Packers, but definitely a terrible quarterback class.
Yeah, let me ask you this question to start off the 2022 Dynasty rankings. If you're drafting today, you're looking at this list right now. Who do you take with a 101?
Breece.
Taking Breece over. Okay, I was thinking Garrett versus Breece is kind of the, I love London. He's not there, right? He's just.
He might be.
He's close, man.
Getting Penix.
I know he's close, and
he started off hot when Cousins was red hot. I mean, Drake London was slaughtering.
Yeah, and obviously we've got Olave, who's had a fantastic career, excluding this season, right? You have B-Rob, who's definitely had a lot of success. Pickens, James Cook, man. There's some really, and then I don't even think I mentioned Trey McBride yet. This class has a lot of hits. JMO finally picking it up, but God, if I had the 101 here, man, I might. I think I'm going to go Garrett Wilson over Breece Hall, but I understand taking Breece.
I've seen Breece perform at a RB1 level pretty much since he got in the league, and been semi disappointing a little bit with some injuries, and the Jets in general just have been again a disappointment. I mean, what else is new? But I like Breece. I like how good he's a great pass catcher. I like the skill set, so I'm sticking with him. But I'm not arguing that Garrett or Drake, if you wanted to take one of those because you're a wide receiver guy over him, that's fine.
Man, you got to come to New Jersey. It's a great time right now. We got drones flying over us. We got everybody's depressed about the Jets and the Giants. It's awesome, man. So
yeah, at least you got the Yankees and the Mets, huh?
Yeah. Weather's beautiful too, so it's just fantastic, man.
Yeah. The poor Yankees just getting players just snatched right out from under him. Didn't want to give him a sweep, I guess.
Yeah. Man, okay. I want to talk about a few of these other players, right? Like the Treylon Burks, the Sky Moores, the Jahan Dotsons, right? Even even Wan'Dale Robinson, Alec Pierce. Let's just talk about some of these other wide receivers.
Sure.
How did you feel about Treylon Burks and Sky Moore being at their ADP?
I liked all three of those. I liked Burks, Moore, and Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson was kind of like that 2-2 range. I feel like a lot of times you could get him at. Sky Moore was usually he could go a little higher, but usually 112, 111. And by the end of the drafts we were doing, and Treylon, would kind of have mid first, mid to late. He could hang around. But I liked all those guys. I did. So those are all pretty big misses. I think Jahan Dotson has a chance. And Treylon Burks has been just a weird career trajectory. Sky Moore is dead right now to me. Mm-hmm. I don't know that we saw here and there some smattering of decent games from Burks, and then just kind of hurt, and then a weird conditioning thing, and then now just not playing. I don't know if he's hurt now or what, but wouldn't be. He is.
Yeah.
So I mean, wouldn't be surprising if somewhere down the line you see another fun game from Treylon Burks. But I mean, all three of those guys, colossal misses for me for sure. Was a big JMO guy, so that was, and I stuck to my guns on that one because there was a lot of circumstances that kind of led up to that when using, contextualizing the hows and whys made sense to kind of stick with it, so that that was good. But you kind of realize what's going on with those three guys, and you kind of start letting them go with Burks, Moore, and Dotson. Although Dotson was a weird one, man, because I thought he played pretty well his rookie season, and then just traded off the Commanders where it seems like they could have used him. Now he's the 3 or 4 in Philly. So weird career, but for sure misses there for me.
Treylon Burks. I mean, what was not to love about Treylon, right? I thought he checked damn close to every box I wanted to see. Thought the landing spot made sense, right? They didn't have a legitimate wide receiver in that offense for a while, and Burks just opportunity after opportunity just could not get it done. JMO is an interesting one. I really liked JMO and I drafted him. And then after disappointing me for several seasons, I was finally out on him. And now I'm looking like a fool because he's finally producing. And I'm like, I just can't get it right with this guy. I remember Pickens versus James Cook was a big argument. They were going, back to back. I was in on Pickens over James Cook. James Cook at Georgia never had a big, what was it, man? It was like he never had 20 touches in high school or college. Is that correct?
I don't really remember exactly what it was. I was kind of indifferent on him. I liked him. If I could get him out of the first round, it just felt a little better. If he was 2-1, I felt like, but like I remember that last 11, 12, 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, 2-4 kind of being like Cook, a battle between Cook, Watson, Pickens, and then Jahan Dotson getting in there from time to time.
Cook was an interesting one, man. I'm pulling up his rushing attempts in 2021, his final year at Georgia, and it's like 6 carries, 11, 8, 6, 10, 9. Like the volume just was not there, and not only that, but people had a lot of questions with his size, right? Much smaller frame. He's I thought it was a valid argument from the community at least.
2020 over the last few draft classes, he's put a lot of stupid misnomers to bed of a lot of silly reasons why you can't draft somebody. I think it's less and less reasons of why you can't draft somebody moving forward, which I like. I don't like to just set these silly parameters of if he's 199 and he's not 201, like it's like, come on, man. Like you're looking at historical date, like just relax. It's 3 pounds. It doesn't make a difference.
Do you remember Isaiah Spiller?
Oh, buddy.
For a hot second was consensus RB2 or RB3?
Yeah, I mean, I was a huge miss for me. I liked Spiller a lot. Then when he doesn't get drafted as high and the combine wasn't good or whatever, I definitely moved him down. Still was down to take him if the price was right. But I did get off of Spiller fairly quickly after it, kind of didn't work out. So that one didn't hang on. But, and I adjusted to the ranking. I didn't still take him 112. But if he was hanging around late second, I'd scoop him up. But that did not work. I did like him. I thought he ran hard and physical and was pretty young, I feel like, when he got drafted. I like Dameon Pierce there at the end. I didn't love him to start with. And then by the end of the process, that preseason, I mean, by the time you were drafting, if you were drafting late, he was going first round all day long, and then had a nice run there for a second, but has since fallen off with kind of the change of what was going on over there. Pickens, we were big on the whole time, and obviously he looks great with Russ. Rachaad White, I was kind of lukewarm on. I knew he was decent. I didn't think he was as good as some people were making him out to be. Obviously had some great production here. But I think fairly rated where we had him. And Wan'Dale, I liked Wan'Dale a lot. Been hurt, man, just been banged up. And he was a guy this year who was 14th, 15th round pick, was an auto pick for me and looked good with Daniel Jones in there, being able to get you some good PPR points. So I don't think Wan'Dale's a bust at this point. Alec Pierce, I'm good on. Brian Robinson Jr., like him a lot. David Bell, miss for me, for sure. Thought David Bell was going to come in and be a nice wide receiver too, and not so much. Trey McBride, awesome. Zamir White, I liked him if he was late enough. So How about you, Austin? Anything else in this area that you want to hit on, and then we'll jump to the back half of this thing?
Rachaad White, man, this year he's at 43 receptions right now, so he's gonna surpass the 50 reception mark for the third straight season. Rashad's been, I know he was a round 2 pick. I mean, all things considered, man, you got to be happy with the production from Rachaad. Like, sure, it's been up and down, right? Obviously, he initially starts behind Leonard Fournette, right? Still catches 50 plus balls, pops off last season, finishes as the RB4, and then this year, sure, it's hasn't been pretty, but he's RB19, not bad, right? That is a every week starter, whether you like it or not, right? They're starting. You basically have to start Rachaad White if you have him, or you better be stacked at the position. So Rachaad White. I don't know what his future holds, but through 3 seasons, been solid. Casey, I'm ready to. We can move on though, man. There's a lot of hits after this.
Yeah, you got Romeo Doubs, which we liked a lot. Thornton, no thanks. Shakir liked. TDP, no thanks. Tyrion Davis Price out on that. Malik Willis. Pacheco, can't say we were any which way on Pacheco. Didn't really know all that much about him and through a lot of the process until super late for me. Kind of came on, wasn't projecting him to be much of anything. Dulcich, Haskins, no thanks. Mechie, I didn't mind, and then obviously got cancer, so that was a huge bummer. Pierre Strong, didn't mind if he was at the right ADP, but wasn't infatuated with. Bellinger had a fun rookie season for a minute. Ritter, no thanks. Likely loved Likely. Still hanging on to that one. We've seen some good production there. Jerome Ford, didn't mind him at all. Definitely got some good Ford. Calvin Austin, Danny Gray, Kyron Williams, baby. That's, we've championed that man for a minute. Liked him. Kyle Phillips was a big, 3rd round slot receiver that I didn't mind. I thought could have some burn. Not so much. Cade Otton, Keontae Ingram, Felix Jones, Matt Corral, Tyler Beatty, Snoop Connor didn't fuck with pretty much any of those guys. So what was your take on the back half of this class here?
Yeah, I mean, full transparency. Of course, I was not high on Kyron Williams, right? Cade Otton, another player who's looking like I know he's cooled down lately. He's just been fantastic, at least to start the season. I liked Mechie for a good bit, and then basically exactly what you said, man. Just praying he can continue to stay healthy. But I don't expect Mechie to necessarily be a star in the NFL or have immense success anytime soon, right? I don't really see it with Mechie. Pacheco's another one, man. I remember reading about him and at least being fairly knowledgeable about his background, and of course, the landing spot is what people found appealing. And while it's not always the best process, he really just had one man to beat, and that man just got released yesterday or today, right? Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yeah. So just RIP CEH, man, a former 101 in if we went a year earlier, right? 2020, he was going before JT. Man, that would have been wow. Casey, we should restart it, man. Let's scrap this whole video. We're gonna go back to the 2020 class now. But Khalil Shakir, I liked him because of reception perception. So shout out to Matt Harmon, man, did really, really good job.
Took a minute, but we're here, baby.
Yeah, but
I like him. I like Shakir, man. I like Shakir a lot. I'm going to be interested to see where that ADP lands for the offseason drafting.
Yeah, right. No, that's a really good point, man. I wouldn't even be surprised if he continued to take a step forward. Shakir has now had 7+ targets all the way dating back to week 7. So, I mean, he's, that's awesome to see. He's just 24 years old. But Casey, that's about it, man. I don't really have anybody else I want to yap about it. If you want to move on to the 2023 class,
let's get on to 2023, the final class. We're going to leave 24 out of this because obviously we did just talk about some rookie rankings, but those guys are still kind of figuring things out. But we can definitely hop on the 2023 class, see hits and misses, kind of what we learned from that. All right, so we got 2023
DraftSharks.com.
Yeah, we got 2023 DraftSharks.com top 60 Superflex Dynasty rookie ranks. So we got Bijan, A-Rich, Bryce, CJ Stroud, Gibbs, JSN, Quentin Johnston at 7, Jordan Addison at 8, Zay Flowers at 9, Dalton Kincaid at 10, Will Levis 11, and Sharbs at 12. So that rounds out the first round. And then the second round, if we were putting it in a round, that's not necessarily what it is. They're just showing rankings. Kendre Miller at 13, Achane at 14, Tajay Spears at 15, Mims at 16, Mingo at 17, Reed at 18, Rashee Rice at 19, Tank Bigsby at 20, Roshan Johnson at 21, Jalen Hyatt at 22, Michael Mayer at 23, and Sam Laporta at 25. So when we go back to the beginning of this class, like we had this fairly dialed in. I mean, you could be upset about Anthony Richardson at this point. I'm still okay with it. Bryce Young was obviously a miss, but seems like we're bouncing back a little bit. But really, everybody was kind of on the same page with kind of this top 4 or 5 as far as who was getting drafted where. You might have mixed guys up a little bit, but it was kind of is what it was. And, Gibbs is great. JSN's coming around. Quentin Johnston, we would have had Quentin Johnston below Addison and Flowers, but, still in that first round. So, a miss there, but, still improving. Addison's been excellent through this back half of the season. Zay Flowers has solidified himself as being really good. Kincaid having a bust of a season there, but if it's tight end premium, I would have probably had him up even a little higher than that and might have had him over Quentin Johnston. Wasn't huge on Levis. Sharbs, liked him a lot. Liked him in that kind of back half of the first, early second. Anything you learned or anything that you hits or misses in that first round, Austin?
Yeah. First thing, I apologize, Casey, because I sent you these rankings, and this is super flex for the 23 class. I know 2021 and 2022 were one quarterback.
Yeah, that's
right.
Fine.
So obviously this whole exercise, we're kind of just yapping about all these players. Not that it matters a whole lot, but I just wanted to mention that. I guess I want to start out with the 4 wide receivers drafted in the first round of not only this draft, but in the NFL draft as well, right? We had 4 receivers go, and they went consecutively, right? 20th overall was JSN, 21st was QJ, 22nd was Zay Flowers, and 23rd was Jordan Addison. So I remember thinking, I thought the NFL GMs nailed it. I thought they got it right. I thought that these 4 wide receivers went exactly in the order they should have, right? I had JSN 1, had QJ, full transparency, had him at 2. Thought so much made sense about QJ. I loved the landing spot. I like the collegiate production. I like the measurables. I liked a lot about QJ, man. Sure, there were some red flags. And yes, he's been getting better, right? Obviously, slower start to his career, but he's picking it up. But then I thought Zay Flowers over Addison was how I felt. And right now, I think that's a valid question, right? I know you're a big Zay Flowers guy, Casey. Jordan Addison looks like the truth lately. He's producing like an absolute monster. How do you feel about, okay, so look, let's put JSN 1, right? We both agree. How would you rank the other 3 wide receivers? Assuming you're going to put QJ last. Is that correct?
Yeah, it goes Zay, Addison, QJ.
Zay, Addison, QJ.
Which is probably how I had it to start with.
Zay and Addison, very, very close for me.
Certainly through this stretch, Addison looking real strong. So, we'll see how that quarterback situation plays out over the next year or two, and how that affects who gets the ball when and where. But the problem, Zay has his own set of problems. The problem with Addison is that, the thing was that he went to a perfect spot because he is an elite Robin, as in he's not the lead guy, but he's an elite 2. And Justin Jefferson's drawing so much coverage that Addison should just have free roam to do whatever he wants. And that's what we're kind of seeing right now. At some point, I think the pendulum probably swings back to Jefferson being the alpha a little bit more consistently, but that's neither here nor there. So
Addison's gotten better on a per game basis this year.
For sure. Addison's slaughtered it over like the last 4 or 5 games.
He's a good player, man. You don't win the Bolton Koff Award on accident.
No.
But so Bijan goes 101, no surprise. Looking back 1-2 years later, it's how it should have been. Obviously, A-Rich, you're definitely frustrated, to put it politely. Bryce Young, of course, you're not happy with it. Even CJ Stroud, man,
was great rookie year. This year, you're feeling slightly uneasy about it.
Yeah,
right now.
you're kind of all over the place. You know, you don't want to hit the panic button by any means, right? You're going to still hold him. Yeah, you're still going to hold him, but it has been a little bit of a roller coaster ride. Gibbs, man, looking like a steal at the 105 here, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course, you know, at this point, Gibbs is for sure ahead of Bryce, probably ahead of Richardson, and then Stroud is hanging out right under Bijan, or a lot of people might even put him over Bijan if you're doing super flex rankings. So
you mentioned the weight threshold, right? Obviously, when we were talking about James Cook sitting at 199 pounds, I think Gibbs was also at like 199 as well.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think that's kind of what I was talking about.
Right. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And then Achane, of course, is on the later part of this and has been excellent this year as well. I mean, obviously banged up through the rookie season, but
Kyren Williams as well.
Yeah, I don't know where Kyren came in on the weight scale, but yeah, I mean, Sharbs is shown some life in year 2 as, you know, most likely just a backup for now because Walker's very good, but, you know, probably wasn't warranted where he got picked, which was always kind of a weird situation anyway, but you like the talent and thought, hey, you know, with the system that they run and how they run it when he got drafted there, you might have an opportunity for both guys to really be good. Now with this different group in there running the team, or I should say coaching the team, I think it's going to be more of a one guy and a for sure B there. And I'm going to assume that it stays Kenny and then Sharbs coming in to clean up a little backup here. So I really liked Kendre Miller on this next set of guys. So I probably had him up here kind of high second round ish. Achane probably kind of same area for me. And by the time we were doing this, Achane was first rounder for sure. By the time we got to rookie drafts late in the season. So Achane would have been up a little bit. I liked Spears a good bit. He was kind of that mid to mid late round second rounder that I pretty much drafted every time. Mims I had down a little bit. Mingo I was okay on, had him down a little bit. If I had 5 drafts, I'd pick him in one just to get him, and you know, but he was down a little further. Jaden Reed I definitely was not on. That's a miss. Rashee Rice was a high second rounder for us, though. We loved Rashee. Bigsby, late second rounder. If he was around, I'd grab him. Early third, like that. Roshan wasn't particularly high on him. Didn't mind him. Hyatt was out on. Mayer loved. Laporta definitely wasn't high enough. I don't know that anybody was. So how was that second kind of batch of guys for you, Austin?
Yeah, Marvin Mims was an interesting one, right? You see Sean Payton go over to Denver. They don't have their first round pick. Sean Payton trades up, I believe it was 3 different draft picks to draft Marvin Mims, 64th overall, the final pick of the second round. And I'm like, that's pretty interesting, man. You know, he comes out of retirement, Sean Payton, that is, gets his guy. And I'm like, God, he took over for CeeDee Lamb at Oklahoma and instantly became one of the focal points, the top wide receiver. I'm like, a lot makes sense for Marvin Mims to, to just have an instant impact. And he has done the exact opposite of that. So I remember liking Marvin Mims a lot more than I probably should have. I think I was reading too much into that narrative. I definitely, one of my proudest moments here is Jaden Reed. I was drafting him mid-third in every dynasty league I'm in. And he's been,
so if I would have been in the mid-third, I would have for sure taken Jaden Reed. I didn't have, like, some people had a mid-second round, and I wasn't that high on him.
That was probably in one of my smaller leagues, so that's probably why he was sorry. So it would have been, naturally like late second, but I just felt good about Reed's profile. I really liked him coming out. Rashee Rice, I think I was about where consensus was at. I shoulda, coulda, woulda, didn't. I love Rashee Rice. Obviously, I think he's a great buy low right now. Achane, I was lower on than consensus.
Same.
It was wasn't the size.
Out, but had to fall after a few different players in the first round for me.
I just the size. That's my cop out answer. I was a little concerned about the durability, and while I was like kind of right during his first season, I was also very wrong. Right, and now I'm looking again like an absolute fool because Achane is. I'll just come out and say like Achane is a really good NFL running back. I don't think it was a 1 year or 2 year type of fluke, right? I think he's going to be able to replicate similar type of production. Sure, we knew that the efficiency inevitably would decline, but He's a really good player, man.
Yeah.
I liked a lot about Kendre, rightfully so. Apparently, Dennis Allen doesn't though.
No, was not feeling Kendray's flavor there.
It's okay. It's all right. Zach Charbonnet, Big Co just texted me and said he is the 101 in Dynasty Superflex startups. So that's interesting. Now, man, remember all the hype that Kincaid got? You remember how people were hot in the streets about Kincaid, man? They're like, he's not a tight end. He's a weapon. He's basically a wide receiver.
Loved Kincaid. I
did too. Yeah, no, I did too. And I still really, I think he's a great buy low in Dynasty. I am not worried at all. But
I am, maybe. God,
Sam Laporta, man. Casey, I have a confession. And then I'll kick it back to you. I was sitting on the clock. 10-minute clock. I waited till quite literally 1 second left, and I pulled trigger on Michael Mayer over Sam Laporta. And for the longest time, I was in on Sam Laporta over Mayer, and I just went down a rabbit hole. Those 10 minutes, I know. It makes me feel a little bit better that Laporta is not like the consensus Dynasty tight end one. Thank you, Brock Bowers, but it still stings, man. It still stings.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I was terribly high on Laporta. I do have some Laporta. I drafted him in a few spots there. Mayer, I was definitely higher than some consensus. I mean, he dropped down a little bit, and then I stuck with him. Obviously, Bowers is there. This is probably, not going to work out here. We might need to see a trade for Michael Mayer. And maybe something does happen. Somebody pays a late round for him. We can see if he could do something. But so that's definitely a bummer. I call that a miss right now. He's probably going to be free in the next round of drafts. So as we're doing startups. So maybe in the 23rd round, I could draft Michael Mayer. I probably still throw him on the team. See what could happen. But then if we go back and go down further on these, there's some bangers. Cedric Tillman at 25, loved him, got him everywhere. Josh Downs, loved him, got him everywhere. Those are some solid third rounders that I absolutely loved. Musgrave, liked him a lot. Hendon Hooker, by the time you were drafting him, he was, fourth rounder or so. And I didn't mind taking the shot on him. Michael Wilson, we were big fans of him. So we had a nice third round here of guys. Tank Dell, we liked him. Abanikanda, Chase Brown, huge Chase Brown fans. I had Chase Brown up around with Kendre Miller in kind of a ranking, but you didn't have to take him there. And then, of course, Puka Nacua down here, which I'm not going to say through the early part of the draft season, I was in on Puka, but by the time we did those, I usually do my rookie drafts in kind of 3 iterations. One that's kind of early, that's some FFPC kind of stuff. And then there'll be 1 or 2 that pop off kind of right after the draft. And then I do, a good handful of 6 or 7, in August, 3rd week of August or so. And by that point, the value, we were snatching up Puka, trading into 3rd rounds to get him. So not going to say I was in right away, but at that point, we scooped up some Puka. So ended up with a fair amount of Puka on some teams that is pretty dope. You could argue him being right there with Bijan as far as, who you're taking first in this class.
Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy. That's crazy. That's true though, man. Chase Brown. I really, really like Chase Brown coming out of Illinois. What was it? 1,900 total scrimmage yards, just under that his senior season. You know what it was? It was the fact that Joe Mixon had a fat contract and was still, in town, it felt like he was going to be in Cincinnati a little bit longer than that. Yeah. And that, I hate to admit it, that deterred me, man. And Mixon's been durable. He's been productive. He's been really, he looks like prime AP this year, apparently, too. But that kind of deterred me from Chase Brown. And I
think it's a good quick sidebar here to a lesson learned is again, let's say let's say you like Chase Brown. He gets drafted to Cincinnati. Instead of getting off him again, adjust to the ADP and man, anything can happen in a year or in 6 months or in 3 months. Nobody thought Isaac Guerrero was going to sniff the field for the San Francisco 49ers. Not a single fucking person. You had Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason, both very good backup running backs whenever they've gotten the chance, and CMC. And then look, Garendo, like, and I'm kind of guilty of it too. I was like, man, I'm not gonna buy Garendo really unless he's free at the end of the draft, because how's he getting on the field? And here we are, right? If you believe in the talent and there's some good athleticism or something that you like, just stick to your guns, man. Get your guy. And I did it with Chase Brown. Sounds like you might have let him slip through the cracks a few times, and you just didn't need to. If Chase Brown is, you got to pick him 112, then of course you're not picking Chase Brown, right? But you didn't have to. So
I've got good patience, Casey, with Dynasty. It's just there's some times where I need even more patience, man. Like, Jerry Jeudy is another prime example of a player that I probably gave up on a year too early in Dynasty, because I thought the value that I got in return was appropriate, or at least solid at the time. And man, some of this stuff, it's so difficult to predict, right? And of course, the final player I guess we could kind of touch on a little bit more is Puka. And like, here he is, 35th overall in these consensus rankings. And obviously, day 3 pick in the NFL draft. Unless your name is Sean McVay, you were probably wrong about Puka. You know?
Right. Yeah, good call. Real quick, before we get out of here, we need to wrap this up. 2 tight ends that, obviously Strange just had a decent week. He's had a couple of weeks here and there, but Strange and the Schoonmaker or Schoonmaker or whatever it is, Dallas tight end, two good stashes. I think those guys have good tight end stashes where situations over the next year, whether it's injuries or tight ends moving on or doing something different. I like both of those guys as kind of 2023 class of stashing tight ends, just super duper late somewhere on a deeper roster, stash them. Anything else you want to add to this before we get out of here, Austin?
Yeah, I mean, just don't give up on some of these 2024 rookies that you're not, happy with their production thus far, right? It's going to take some time for a lot of these guys. There's going to be injuries to some of the players in front of them. They might get traded. You don't know. But if you like them as prospects, give them a little bit longer of a leash, hold on to them. And I guarantee you're going to be right on a lot of them. You'll be surprised.
I stuck to my guns with Penix, kept ranking them in that first round, and and every video people will be so mad about it, and then bang, we got it was a lot of fun to see him drafted where he is. And now it was like, oh well, he got drafted, when are you going to see him? Hey, we're in week, what are we at? Going to be week 16 this coming week. Some people are going to see their first Penix ever, so that's a big time in a woman's life. But what can you do? That's stick to your guns and adjust. And we didn't even need to adjust on Penix. We got to wallow and all that glory. It was wonderful. So sometimes it works out. Sometimes you're wrong as hell. That's the fun of this, man. If I had it figured out, I wouldn't fucking share it with y'all. I can tell you that.
And a few of these running backs in the 24 class that haven't had the start you want, but we could look back in a year or two and maybe things turn around. I'm just going to throw out Jonathan Brooks' name, right? Very, very, very long-term, I know. But Trey Benson, man, another guy, even Blake Corum, right? Really just one big injury away from being utilized a lot more. You could say the same thing about Jalen Wright, maybe even Marshawn Lloyd.
Ray Davis.
Right. Ray Davis. There's just so many guys, man. And, a few of these, and Braylon Allen, man, come on. Bucky Irving's already producing, right? Aldrich Estime, another one, right? There's just, I know, Kamani Vidal, poor one out. I don't think it's going to happen for him, but I could be wrong. Isaac Garendo, right? So, Tyron Tracy's already getting it done, just makes it really, really interesting. So, Casey, this has been fun, man.
Yeah.
This was very, very different type of episode for sure, but I enjoyed it, man. I love talking about obviously the rookies or the past rookies. So always a good time, man.
It's a good taking a trip down memory road of where you were, taking inventory, feeling things out, seeing, I like that guy, didn't like that guy, was right, was wrong. Why was that right or wrong? Always good things to do. Be sure to keep it locked and loaded all off season long. We're going to be bringing you content about rookies, content about startups, ADPs. We're going to be doing best ball drafts. We got all sorts of good stuff for your pleasure. So be sure to like, subscribe, comment below on anything you like, didn't like, or any shows you want to see. Comment below. Give us some topics. Michael Penix, baby. Let's go. He's Austin Abbott. You can find him on Twitter at Austin Abbott FF, 2 B's, 2 T's, 2 F's. We're the FF Dynasty. You can find us on Twitter at the FF Dynasty. I'm Casey. That's Austin. We will catch you next time. Peace.
Peace.